My dear Libra, some work lights you up from the inside, and some work quietly chips away at something you cannot quite name until enough of it is gone. The environments that drain you tend to share a common feature. They are unfair. They are coarse. They reward the loudest voice rather than the most considered one. They move too fast to think clearly, and they treat other people as obstacles rather than as the whole point. Understanding that you are not too sensitive for the professional world, you are simply calibrated for a better version of it. That is not a small realization. That is the beginning of building a career that actually fits. Libra is a cardinal air sign ruled by Venus. In plain professional terms, that combination produces a very specific kind of mind. Venus governs beauty, harmony, value, and the quality of relationships between people and things. Cardinal signs initiate. They are not content to observe a situation that needs improving. They move toward it. Air as an element operates through thought, communication, and the careful weighing of perspectives before a conclusion is reached. Together, those qualities produce someone who is simultaneously a natural diplomat and a natural decision maker, which sounds like a contradiction until you watch a Libra work. You do not avoid decisions. You insist that decisions be made correctly. There is a significant difference, and most people who have worked alongside you have felt that difference even if they could not name it. The first field worth considering seriously is law, mediation, and the broader world of dispute resolution and legal advocacy. This covers practicing attorneys, mediators, arbitrators, legal consultants, and the advocacy roles within policy and government that require the same fundamental skill set. What makes this field a natural fit for Libra is not just that you appreciate fairness, it is that you understand, almost instinctively, how arguments are constructed and where they fall apart. You see both sides of a dispute not because you are indecisive, but because your mind will not let you rest until you have genuinely considered each position on its merits. In law, that quality is not a hesitation. It is the foundation of every sound legal argument ever made. Venus gives Libra a feel for the relational texture of a conflict. Who is actually hurt? What was actually at stake? What resolution would feel genuinely just rather than just technically correct? Cardinal air means you do not simply observe the imbalance, you move to correct it. You frame an argument, build a case, present a position, and push toward an outcome with the same fluency that other people use to describe what they had for breakfast. Mediation and legal advocacy are fields that require someone who can hold the weight of a conflict without becoming the conflict. That is a Libra professional at their most natural. Here is the scene. Two parties have reached an impasse. The conversation has broken down. Each side is now talking past the other, repeating their own position louder rather than genuinely engaging with what the other side needs. You step in, not with force, with a reframe. You find the point underneath the argument where both parties actually want the same thing, even if they have been expressing it as opposition. You name that point, clearly, calmly, without taking a side. And the temperature in the room drops by 10 degrees. People start listening again. The path forward, which seemed completely blocked 30 minutes ago, suddenly has a door in it. You did not discover that door. You built it. Out of language and perception and the refusal to accept that the impasse was permanent. Long-term, what Libra tends to build in law and dispute resolution is a reputation for producing outcomes that hold. Not just settlements that end the immediate conflict, but resolutions that both parties can live with over time. That quality of durable fairness is rarer than it sounds. It requires someone who cares about the relationship between the parties after the legal matter is closed, not just the verdict while it is open. Over years, that care compounds into a professional standing that attracts the most complex and consequential cases, because those are the ones where what you do best matters most. Here is where to start. If you are drawn to law or mediation and are not yet formally in the field, find a community mediation program in your area and complete their basic training. Most offer it at low or no cost. Community mediation puts you in real disputes with real people, where the stakes are genuine, but the setting is forgiving enough to learn. That direct experience of sitting between two opposing positions and finding a path through will tell you more about your fit for this field than any law school brochure ever could. The second path that tends to align deeply with Libra's vocational psychology is the arts, design, and the professional creation of things that are both beautiful and functional. This covers graphic and industrial design, fashion and textile work, architecture, interior design, art direction, and the curatorial and creative leadership roles within arts institutions and cultural organizations. What makes this a natural fit goes beyond the surface-level assumption that Libra likes pretty things. You do not just like beauty. You understand it as a form of communication. You understand that the way something looks shapes the way people feel about it, and the way people feel about it determines whether it works. Venus is the ruling planet of aesthetics, proportion, and the experience of harmony as something felt rather than merely observed. In a design context, that Venusian quality gives Libra a native fluency with visual and spatial relationships that other designers often spend years trying to develop through technical training alone. You feel when something is slightly off before you can explain why. You know when a color relationship is wrong, when a layout creates unintended tension, when a space makes people uncomfortable without their knowing the reason. That pre-analytical aesthetic intelligence is not decoration. It is precision of a different kind. Cardinal air means you bring ideas to the work, not just execution. You do not wait to be told what something should look like. You arrive with a considered point of view, a rationale, and the communication skills to make the client or the team understand why your approach serves their actual goal. That combination of aesthetic intelligence and articulable reasoning is what separates designers who get hired once from designers who get called back for everything. Picture this moment. A client has brought you a brief that describes what they want with great confidence. They know the colors they like. They know the general feeling they are after. And what they have described will not work. Not because their taste is wrong, because their instincts about what communicates their actual goal are pointing in the wrong direction. Most designers do one of two things. They either give the client exactly what was asked for, or they override the client entirely with their own vision. You do neither. You sit down and you ask questions. Real questions, not rhetorical ones. You find out what the thing is actually supposed to do for the person experiencing it. And then you show the client, specifically and visually, why the approach you are proposing serves that goal better than the one they came in with. By the end of the conversation, they are not just convinced. They feel heard. That is Libra in a design relationship doing something that has no technical name, but produces results that speak for themselves. Over a long career in design and the arts, what Libra tends to develop is an eye that clients and collaborators describe as trustworthy. Not trendy, not safe, trustworthy. The work ages well. The spaces still feel right 5 years later. The visual identities still communicate clearly when the context around them has shifted. That quality of considered, durable aesthetic judgment is one of the most valuable things a creative professional can possess, and it takes years of intentional practice to develop fully. This is the move to make. Build a physical collection of design work that moves you, and start annotating it. Not digitally, physically. Tear things out. Print things out. Put them somewhere you can look at them together. Then write, in plain sentences, what each piece does well and what it would take to make it better. That practice of articulating your aesthetic response in language is how you develop the critical vocabulary that separates working designers from design thinkers. Both matter. The second one is rarer. The third career path worth naming for Libra is diplomacy, human resources, and the professional management of relationships between people and institutions. This covers corporate human resources, organizational development, public relations, government and foreign service, community affairs, and any role where the primary task is maintaining the conditions under which people can work together productively. It is easy to underestimate how much skill this requires until you have watched an organization fall apart because no one in it possessed that skill. Libra tends to possess it in abundance and deploy it so naturally that other people sometimes mistake it for personality rather than expertise. Cardinal air in a people management context produces someone who initiates difficult conversations rather than avoiding them. You do not let a conflict fester because addressing it feels uncomfortable. You address it early, framed carefully, in the language most likely to be heard by the specific person sitting across from you. That early intervention instinct is one of the most valuable things a human resources professional or organizational developer can bring to an institution. By the time most conflicts become visible to leadership, they have been building for months. You tend to see them earlier, and you tend to move. Venus in a relational professional context means you understand that the quality of the working relationship is itself a business outcome. Not a soft priority, not a cultural nicety, an outcome. Teams that trust each other produce better work. Individuals who feel fairly treated stay longer and contribute more. Organizations that handle conflict with skill and consistency attract people worth attracting. You understand this not as a management philosophy, but as something you feel viscerally when it is absent. That visceral understanding is what makes Libra-led human resources functions feel fundamentally different from the ones that treat people management as a compliance exercise. Here's the scene. Two colleagues have reached a point of open friction. It has started to affect the people around them. A meeting is called. Most people in a mediating role at that point are hoping the conversation goes smoothly, hoping both parties behave reasonably, hoping the problem resolves itself with minimal intervention. You are not hoping. You have already thought through every likely dynamic in that room. You know which person needs to feel acknowledged before they can hear anything. You know which one needs to understand the impact of the situation before they will be willing to move. You have already decided how you will enter the conversation and where you will let it breathe. The meeting does not go smoothly in the way that means nothing difficult was said. It goes smoothly in the way that means something true is said and both people left with their dignity intact. That is a different thing entirely. Over time, what Libra builds in people-facing institutional roles is an organizational memory for what works. Not policy memory, relationship memory. You remember how the last restructuring affected team trust. You remember which manager's communication style created problems that took 2 years to repair. You remember because those dynamics matter to you, and things that matter to Libra tend to stay with Libra. That institutional relationship memory, applied consistently over a career, makes you the person organizations consult before they make decisions that affect people. That is a form of influence that no org chart fully captures. Here is how to move toward this path. Find one interpersonal conflict in your professional or community life that has been going unaddressed and offer to facilitate a conversation between the parties. Not as a formal mediator, as someone who cares about the outcome and has the relational intelligence to help. Prepare for it the way you would prepare for an important meeting. Think through what each person needs to feel heard. Think through what a fair outcome looks like. Then facilitate. What you learn about your own instincts in that conversation is a more honest assessment of your fit for this field than any professional profile or career quiz has ever produced. Before you close this out, sit with what you just heard. Of those 3 fields, law and dispute resolution, design and the arts, diplomacy and people management, which one felt like a description of something you already do every day without being paid for it yet? Which one landed with the weight of recognition rather than the lightness of surprise? And which one came at you sideways and made you consider a direction you had dismissed or never seriously imagined? Those 3 reactions are all worth something. They are all telling you where to look next. Leave a comment telling me which path resonated most honestly, or share which of these fields you are already working in and whether this captured what the day-to-day actually feels like. Those real-world reflections make this community genuinely useful rather than just interesting. If this kind of grounded, sign-specific vocational clarity serves you, subscribing means more of it finds its way into your life. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a blessed day.